Hi folks, my name is Mike Dobbs, and welcome to another edition of Government Matters, here on Focus Springfield. Today it's my pleasure and privilege to talk to Melvin Edwards, longtime City Councilor, who just was elected Vice President of the Springfield City Council. Congratulations.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
So I want to start off with talking to you about one of your passions, and that is the beautification of Springfield. You have been very much in the forefront of addressing issues about litter, addressing issues about trash. Just full disclosure, Melvin and I live in the same neighborhood. For many years, he has organized a trash pickup program for some bulk items to make sure residents properly get rid of those bulk items. That's been something that he's done for a long time, and it's been extremely helpful in the city. So let's talk a little bit about that. Obviously, you're still doing stuff. Is there something coming up that we should be aware of in terms of the beautification of Springfield, a program or an event?
Well, yes. I'm the president of Keep Springfield Beautiful, and my team has started meetings and organizational gatherings to try to figure out how to benefit the city post-COVID. Not that it's gone away, but we had to change the model as COVID came on. We are Keep Springfield Beautiful. We are an affiliate of Keep America Beautiful, and we're a small nonprofit with a 501c3, and we've been in existence for about 15 years. We met just last week, and we are scheduling a participation in what is known nationally as the Great American Cleanup. We've been doing that for well over a decade. That is a one-day of service intended to address litter, and it's done in cities across America. We have participated, as I said, for over a decade, and in our first year that we did it, we had funding that allowed us to put 48 dumpsters across the city of Springfield, and we took hundreds of tons of trash out the streets of Springfield in a 4-hour period. We did that in conjunction and working with the DPW, the Department of Environmental Protection, the Sheriff's Department, and several other local organizations, and we've never been able to replicate that since that first time, but that's what set the standard. In the years past, we've organized cleanups. There's 17 neighborhoods in the city of Springfield, and when I became president, one of the things that I said that it would be rude or disrespectful for me to walk into your neighborhood and tell you what you needed to clean. So our model is that we come to you, to the civic organizations, the neighborhood councils, those neighbors who want to participate, and we ask them, tell us where you need to clean. We'll give you gloves, bags, and in years past, we've been able to secure boxed lunches and bottles of water. And what we do is on a Saturday, we'll give you those supplies, and we'll work in conjunction with the Sheriff's Department and DPW. So as you gather up trash from public streets, parkland, public spaces, you'll pile it in a certain area spot. You'll contact myself or one of my team members, and we'll work with DPW to make sure it's off the street that same day by noon.
Wow, excellent.
And we hope to do that again on Earth Day in April.
That's great, because one of the problems that I think every urban community like Springfield has is the proper disposal of trash. And certainly in many neighborhoods you see the mattress that's flopped out on the side of the street or on the sidewalk, and it's not necessarily even sometimes the people in that neighborhood who are doing it. It's people who are just leaving their junk someplace. So obviously what you guys have been doing is really valuable.
It should be a teaching tool. We try to involve people, and the ideal is that if you're willing to take the time on a Saturday morning, come out and pick up trash in your neighborhood, then you're not going to be one of the people when Sunday or Monday comes around that's going to contribute to the trash being in your neighborhood. We also recognize that it's being socially responsible, environmentally responsible. To the people who are more affluent, who, as I like to describe, can afford to heat a 30 or 40 room house, when I talk to them about it, I talk about the fact that there's studies that have suggest that your property values could be impacted by up to 23% by the litter that surrounds the area, around the area where you live. To the people who are probably in areas that are less affluent, there's studies that suggest the need for intervention socially from police, Department of Youth Services, social services, addiction issues. The numbers rise in areas that are known as being littered. And litter is also something that impacts our health, our mindset mentally. And it's nothing controversial about picking up trash. When we got started, we knew that there had to be a component that dealt with recycling. So we have, over the years, we've had free electronic recycling projects. We are in discussions, and we have the support of Mayor Sarno and his staff, administration, to try to plan a free electronics collection event that would encompass be presented to the entire city. Keep Springfield Beautiful has been able to do those over the years, in the years past. Our costs kept rising. So now I'm actively seeking funding from the private sector to help offset those costs. And my hope is that I can get enough funding so that I can advertise it properly, so that everybody in the city knows when it's happening and can take advantage of it. Because it's too difficult to get rid of TVs, it's too difficult to get rid of air conditioners, and many of the electronic items that come into our household on a regular basis. And so it's just a way to be helpful to our neighbors, to beautify the city, and be environmentally responsible.
So you recently were elected the vice president of the city council.
Yes.
And one thing that you said in your speech that I should have known, but I didn't, was the fact that you're one of the original ward councilors. So let me just ask you about perspective. Obviously, if people have forgotten about this, Springfield City Council was once comprised of all at-large candidates. And a number of groups, including a Rise for Social Justice, led efforts to revise our charter to allow for ward candidates. The thought being that a ward candidate would have a greater investment into a particular neighborhood or section of the city than at-large candidates. And I'm not defaming in the at-large candidates, don't get me wrong. It's just that if you live someplace, you're aware of that locale's needs, what the people are saying and what they need. So you came in as one of those original ward candidates. So since that time, do you think that it's really worked well to have that kind of group of counselors who have direct contact with a specific area of the city? Do you think that we've improved the democratic nature of government here in Springfield because of this? Because we have people who are directly elected by a ward? I just wanted your perspective, because your perspective is valuable because you were one of the original people.
Well, there's three left: myself, Councilor Tim Allen, and Attorney Michael Fenton. We are the last, or the three amigos, as we like to say. Yes, to the question of has it been beneficial? Yes. There was a thought and a fear that when you elect councilors from ward, that their only concern would be the ward. I can't speak for everybody, but I take an oath to serve the entire city. A ward councilor is no less or more powerful than a at-large councilor. How hard we work or how invested we are in our job is dependent on each individual's desire to serve. The ward that I came from had not had a city councilor, I believe, in probably about 50 years by the time I got elected. I didn't come from a politically connected family. I wasn't, nobody in City Hall knew my name outside of Keep Springfield Beautiful, and to be honest with you, I don't think any of them cared to figure out who I was or even learn how to spell my name. But what drove me to get involved is that this opportunity that I appreciate the work that people like Michael N. Buswayze and Gumersindo Gomez and E. Henry Twiggs, Frank Bunton did, and as many others to bring this about was it gave me an opportunity coming from a neighborhood that was chronically underserved. You made reference earlier about the mattress. And I can tell the story that one of the driving forces for me was the fact that a mattress was dumped in front of my house. And I can remember calling or somebody at DPW and asking for it to be picked up. And it took 3 weeks for somebody to actually come. And I was saying, I can't fold it up and put it in my green barrel, and it's not mine. And it was that type of thing. It was the ideal that when we called the police or we called for services, there was no debate that certain neighborhoods, that if a tree limb fell and they called somebody in the city, a cruiser would show up and stay next to that limb until DPW got there to pick it up. And the neighborhood that I came from was not one of those neighborhoods. And so I thought that by the same motivation that led me to start and be involved with Keep Springfield Beautiful, because the services were not the same, I felt like I needed to be at the table. And to this point, I am happy to have been serving and continue to serve. And I think that as I look out at the landscape politically, that the majority of my colleagues, regardless of how they get elected in terms of the votes, which is a ward councilor only getting the votes in his own area, when we step into the chamber, our concerns are for the entire taxpayer, for the entire city, whether you vote, whether you're Republican, whether you're Democrat, Independent, whether you're an immigrant, whoever resides and is traveling through the city of Springfield. I have very much confidence that all my colleagues are concerned not just for the ward that they are elected from, but are concerned about the entire city.
Excellent. I know something came up recently, a resolution, and forgive me, I can't remember how you voted on it, but that's what I'm going to ask you. And the resolution was about suspending the trash fee for a year. I know that some councilors were for it. I know some councilors were against it. And the reason that I read, shameless plug, the reminder, the reason that I read was that we've had all of these bills. I know I've received them, the property tax bill and the excise tax bill, and the idea was if we have the money in the city that we could forego the trash fee for a season, that it would take a little bit of pressure off of residents. So I was wondering how you fell on that, because forgive me for not being able to remember what the vote was for you, but I was just curious about what you felt about that.
Well, first of all, let me say that, I voted against it.
Okay.
I was comfortable in my vote, and the reason I got to my vote was that I've read the charter, and the charter didn't allow for us, the powers of the mayor are the ones who can actually suspend it. We can't do it. I believe that it was originally presented to the council as an order, and then it ended up being presented actually as a resolution because it came out that we didn't have that authority. I very much respect the powers of the corner office, so to speak, the chain of command, and I like to stay in my own lane. So now, let me just say that I believe that the trash fee should go away. I believe that the mayor actually ran a campaign where he said he would get rid of it. At the time when that election was going on 16 years ago, one thing I said to people was, anytime a person running for office says they're going to do something, you should ask them, the next question should be, how are you going to do it? If that time, if I remember correctly, it was $3.2 million that the fee created. So if you're going to get rid of it, then where are you going to get the $3.2 million? The city has enough money now to do that, but I thought that the vehicle to get to that point where it is gone didn't and should have not been done in the format as it was presented to the council, either as an order, which we're not legally authorized to do, or as a resolution, which is more theatrical, and a statement of interest and concern and a statement of what we want to see done. The way to get it done is to go sit down with the head of the finance department for the city of Springfield, sit down with the mayor, sit down with the head of DPW. Sometimes the best way to do things is to have a conversation with the people who have the authority to do it, as opposed to trying to force an issue onto somebody who does have the authority and it just doesn't get done. Nobody in the city of Springfield is losing their house because of a $90 trash fee. Any senior is paying $60, and it's a one-time fee. My brother-in-law lives in Munson, Mass. My 92-year-old mother-in-law, who lives in senior housing in Munson, is now in Chestnut Hill Nursing Home in East Long Meadow. I just recently went and got her mattress and box spring, and two $8 stickers bought at Big Y, got rid of it. I believe he told me, my brother-in-law, that in Munson it's $125 to get rid of a mattress. I know that when I was doing bulk collection events as a part of the Maple High Six Corner Neighborhood Council, where I brought dumpsters, placed them on Reverend Steve Williams' church site off of Hancock Street there, we were being charged $50 a mattress.
Wow.
The last time we had an event. So my thing is that, yes, it would be nice, but $90 is a dinner out for me and my wife. It's not going to change my electric bill or my ability to pay my electric bill, to be able to pay my water bill. And if it should go away, there's plenty of money, whether it's through ARPA, whether it's the many sources of income and money that the city has had, because the city has a historic amount of money to have access to. But if you're going to get rid of it for 1 year for political reasons or purposes, I just didn't feel comfortable trying to force that in. And I'm willing, and said it then, have a conversation and let's go about getting rid of it the right way by having a conversation with the people who can legally do that.
Okay. So in your opinion, the city does have the funds that we didn't have to have the trash fee, but in all honesty, if we're going to get rid of it, we should get rid of it the right way.
Yes.
Okay.
And not a 1 year break, $90. You're going to give me $90 for this year, and then the first fiscal year, next year, $90 is back. Let's sit down and figure out how we replace that $2 million that needs to go into that fund to, get rid of the trash fee completely. I'm old enough to remember when the garbage man used to come into the yard. I remember when we, put our trash on a corner and was no fee.
Right.
This was brought about by the control board, who didn't want to raise taxes, that needed to have more revenues when we were on the verge of receivership. And people need to be conscious that as stewards of the taxpayer, we need to look more than just whether at the trash fee. We have to look at pension obligations. The same night that was going on, or within the same time frame, I believe we were approving 3 contracts for employees. None of those contracts were negotiated with a lower salary and a lower expenditure. So the thing is when it's easy for political purposes to pull any one item or any one issue and throw it on the table and not have to see how it's connected to all the other financial responsibilities that we're charged with as city councilors.
So we're sitting in a studio that's right over there is the sports book for MGM. And MGM's facility and its amenities have been under a lot of scrutiny lately. Mm-hmm. So I know the mayor has met with CEO Bill Hornbuckle. I know that your colleague Mike Fenton has been very concerned about this. State Rep Bud Williams talked about this as well. I was wondering what your opinion was. If you feel that MGM has been living up to the host community agreement, if you feel like they're doing a good job trying to provide the jobs, try to provide the amenities that would attract people. What's your take on this, Melvin?
Well, first of all, I'm happy to have MGM here. I think we're better as a city because of the revenues that they generate. I think the city was smart hiring lawyers from the Midwest that knew how to negotiate with casinos, and we are insulated. Nobody was insulated from the impact of COVID, but we were insulated in terms of the profitability of MGM. We get our money regardless of whether their numbers are up or down. And I think that was very smart that the administration was able to do that at the beginning, and the city council had a role in doing that. Am I happy with the progress of MGM and in terms of its fulfillment of the HCA? No. The unique design and what we voted on and supported was more than just a casino. It was unique. It was different in terms of casinos across the country, across the world. But the purpose of it and part of the design that was created was supposed to stimulate the other side of the street. that was part of the conversation. The other side of the street was supposed to get developed. You knew when you were building it, you were going to be competing with Mohegan Sun. You were still going to be competing with Foxwood. Encore, less of an issue because it's, it's a 90-minute drive. It's an eastern part of the state, but they miscalculated, and that's not my job to, kind of find excuses for why they miscalculated. But when you don't, the amenities are not even open. That's a business decision that's been made internally, and that's not acceptable. I can understand that your numbers are lower. I know from my work with the REO, the Responsible Employer Ordinance, how difficult it is to get labor. The difficulties to get workers is not unique to MGM. I can sit here and tell you as the chairman of the Responsible Employer Ordinance that under the construction of MGM, I was very proud of the fact that we had a historic number of women more working on that site and have never been able to duplicate that in the history of this city, working on one site in construction, which, no disrespect to a CNA, because they're the people who take care of me when I'm sick. They're the people who take care of my mother-in-law, my mother and family when we're sick. Wonderful people, very valued job. But they're not able to buy homes and have a high standard of living as CNAs. And I was able to commission a study in conjunction with the Carpenters Union, and we got a study out of UMass Boston that talked about the ability for women in the Springfield area to be able to work in the construction and as apprentices and eventually earn a livable wage. A wage that actually would allow them to have the option of buying a home and raising the standard of their living. MGM's construction was great, but since they're open, am I satisfied? Have they lived up to their obligations? No.
Do you think that now, after this amount of attention that's been placed on them, meetings with the mayor, meetings with members of the city council, do you feel a little bit more assured that they're going to try to live up to what they promised us?
I think that they, I believe this morning, or I got an email that said that they've extended their hours. I wasn't invited to that meeting, so I don't know what was said and what was promised, and that's the most recent meeting, so addressing the shortcomings. But the reality is that the theater needs to be open. The restaurants, even when times were rough, they adjusted, but most of them did not, that are still operational. 99 didn't close, shut their hours down. They might have had less
Right.
staff. I can remember going to restaurants where it was obviously they were short-staffed, and the time between getting my order in was much longer, getting my food was longer. But, so I don't see where the correlation is in terms of not the doors even being closed. When the restaurants aren't even open on a Tuesday or Wednesday, when the theater is not there, when the bowling alley is not there. The bowling alleys didn't close down during COVID. But see, the basic question or the answer was that, am I satisfied? No. Have they lived up to it? No.
So we're entering an interesting period here where we've seen the three major economic development projects come to fruition that have been talked about for years. The Chinese Rail Car Company, Union Station, MGM. What do you see as, or what would you like to advocate for the next wave of economic development in the city?
I've always said, I'm born and raised in the city of Springfield, went to local schools, and getting to travel a little bit about on the East Coast and, down south and as far as Aruba and north to Canada. I always kind of grew up that, thinking that the world, the sun revolved around Springfield. I can remember going to the south and, my mother saying we needed to go to the Piggly Wiggly to get some milk. And I'm like, can't drink no milk from no Piggly Wiggly, and my bread had to be either Wonder Bread or dry corns.
There you go.
So, but what I will say is that as I came into my political consciousness, my desire to be involved in service, one of the things that I've said is that Springfield has done a poor job of marketing itself. When George Washington went to Congress and asked for 4 arsenals, and they funded 2, Springfield and Harpers Ferry, Virginia, we were the center of this country. and we were a part of the conversation. The site of Shays Rebellion is right up on State Street. The Springfield Armory site was picked for strategic military reasons. And that armory there, I was a part of the group that reestablished the Friends Group at the National Armory. And one of the things that I said to people, we got people coming as far away as Russia to see our Springfield Armory, and people in Springfield don't even know we exist. I think our tourism dollars is the way that we can drive our economy locally, and we've done such a poor job of recognizing that our museums are on par with museums across the country. We're a signature to the Louvre. I've seen Picasso's and famous paintings that are hanging in the Louvre on loan to the Springfield Quadrangle. I believe that the Springfield Armory is a wonderful institution. It goes well beyond just the guns. It's the history of manufacturing, because we were the manufacturing hub. Most people who come to city of Springfield, I get the pleasure of pointing out to them that this is the birthplace of the automotive industry. It's not Detroit. And the Basketball Hall of Fame. This should be a center of all of Western Mass. When we think of Eastern Mass, we always think of Boston. And whether you're in Narragansett, whether you're in any part of the eastern coastal part of Massachusetts, you know Boston is the center. We now know that Worcester is the center of central Massachusetts. We need to elevate ourselves, do a better job of marketing, bringing in tourism dollars. Can we compete with southern states with our labor costs and high utilities when it comes to manufacturing? It's going to be difficult. I know we have precision manufacturing, and technical things and stuff, but where we can tap in is the ideal and the thought that you could come to Springfield, stay at our local hotels, and plan a week's worth of vacations because you're going to a Red Sox game one day because it's only 90 minutes up the road. You can take the kids the next day to Six Flags. The next day you can go to the Berkshires, to Tanglewood. You can go to the Hall of Fame and to our beautiful museums, the Quadrangle, the Springfield Armory, and we also have historic homes. People don't come to cities just to see skyscrapers, but they will come to see the beautiful historic houses in the McKnight neighborhood, in the parts of the Forest Park around the park. They don't advertise that the godfather of architectural landscape started here in Springfield and designed Forest Park. We have one of the largest and most beautiful park systems of any city our size across the country. These are the things that are messages that have not been spoken well of, and I believe that that's the vehicle that could drive jobs, raise the standards of people's living, and change the perception that we're a city that's not worth investing in.
Okay, well, one final question, and it should be an easy one. There you go. Here, brace yourself. You're running for re-election?
Yes.
Okay. See, that was easy.
Okay, thank you.
It's going to be a very interesting race this year, not only for mayor, but also because two of our mayoral candidates so far, Jesse Letterman and Justin Hurst, by running for mayor, they will not be running for re-election for the council. So we're going to have some open seats on the council.
Yes.
And that's going to be very interesting to see who comes forth to run for some of those open seats, and how that changes the composition of the council next year. But you're running for re-election.
Yes.
Okay. Folks, I want to thank you very much for watching this episode of Government Matters right here in Focus Springfield, and we'll see you later.